All right, guys, so we are 2 weeks post Arnold Sports Festival Australia, post when I was supposed to make my pro debut. And man, what a time to be alive. To be completely honest with you guys, we had planned to continue this series, continue Pro Prep for probably another 4, 5, 6 episodes, and just kind of see how the situation progressed with COVID-19, with the coronavirus, and kind of make a decision reactively based on how things were progressing. So my initial goal was to reverse out a little bit, reverse out of my diet for 4 to 5 weeks, kind of see what the landscape looked like with coronavirus at that point in time, and then decide whether I just continue reversing out, or if I was able to find a show to compete in the US, go back into caloric deficit and repeat that last 4 or 5 weeks of prep. And I was looking at, as I mentioned to you guys, the Pittsburgh Pro, the New York Pro, and there were a couple of other shows in there that piqued my interest as well. Where we're currently at now, that's completely off the table. Pretty much the whole world is in lockdown at this point in time, and it looks like it's going to be that way for the next 6 months. So all of the shows that I was looking at that I was considering competing in have all been cancelled. In fact, the IFBB Pro League has cancelled all shows indefinitely until I guess there's more information about how long this worldwide lockdown is going to last. And most of the US, especially the parts that I was looking at traveling to compete in, are actually in full isolation, in full quarantine. So where does that leave us? Unfortunately, that means that this episode is going to be the final episode of Pro Prep. So we're going to wrap it up here. Pro Prep 10 is going to be the finale. I'm going to show you guys some different bits and pieces in this episode. So we actually did record my first peak week workout, which was a shoulder workout that was right at the start of my peak week, literally the day before the announcement came that the pro show had been cancelled. So I'm going to share that workout with you guys. Also did some posing as well a couple of weeks before the show, so we have that footage, so I'm going to share that with you guys as well, so you can kind of see not my final form, I guess, but you know, within 2 weeks out, how I was kind of looking, how my physique was progressing, and you can kind of get an idea for the sort of package that I was going to bring to stage. And then where I'm at this point is I've been reversing. I've been reversing out of my diet, I've been reversing out of my cardio, I've been reversing out of my training to get myself back into caloric surplus and start building my caloric intake back up, start bumping my caloric output back down, and get myself back into a state where I'm able to grow again, where I'm able to build some muscle again. And that in itself has been a huge challenge, because at this point all the gyms in Australia and pretty much the world have been completely shut. So what I had planned to do with my reversing back down my medium intensity steady state sessions on the Stairmaster has changed. My training split has changed. There's been so many unexpected spanners thrown in the works at this point that, you know, not only, as I shared with you guys in Pro Prep 9, not only did it throw me completely off what I was going to do with my pro debut, but it's taken my pro debut completely off the table at this point, and has just thrown a bunch of different challenges and obstacles in the way at this point, which is reversing out of the prep. So I'm going to talk to you guys about that, talk you through it, and show you how I personally am dealing with those challenges and dealing with those obstacles and adapting what I thought I was going to do to the current circumstances and the current situation, and then, you know, how I'm actually going to reverse out of this diet properly, slowly, and most importantly healthily, so I can get myself back to a healthy level of body fat and back into a physical state where I can continue to work on my weaknesses, continue to grow, and then I guess when all of this blows over at some point, plan the next move, which will once again be my pro debut. Pro Prep 10, the finale. Let's go.
He's only focused on what he wrote. His will is beyond reach, and now it all unfolds. The skill of an artist. 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentration. 100% reason to remember the name. Let's go! Set the West in flames, and I heard him wreck it with the crystal method, name of the game. Came back, dropped Megadeth, took him to church. I like Bleach, man. Why you had the stupidest verse? This dude is the truth. Now everybody giving them guest spots. His stocks through the roof. I heard he fucking with that stock. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. They call him Ryan, he's sick and he's spitting fire and Mike. Got him out the dryer, he's hot. Found him in Fort Minor with tops, but a fucking nihilist porcupine. He's a prick, he's a cop. The type women wanna be within rappers, hope he gets shot. 8 years in the making, patiently waiting to blow. Now the record we should notice taking.
So when it comes to the training side of reversing out of my contest prep, guys, what I would normally do is keep my training pretty much the same. So my split would stay the same, the way I train stays the same, my workout intensity stays the same. You guys know that that's pretty much the same way that it always is year round, whether I'm in contest prep, grow season, it really doesn't make a difference. So far as my cardio goes, I would usually start to taper that down week by week by week, but keep most of my cardio in definitely at this stage of my reverse. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, the Australian government shut down all gyms in Australia. So we can't access gyms, can't get to gyms, which means I was kind of in between a rock and a hard place with this reverse. What am I gonna do? I can't get to the gym. I wanna try and keep my training intensity where it is. I wanna try and keep my caloric output with regards to my training with weights and cardio the same. So I had to get a little bit creative, a little bit resourceful. That's why I'm standing here in my house at the moment. This is the door to what used to be my garage, is now my home gym. So first things first, I want to show you what we're working with. Let's go. So I was able to get my hands on some dumbbells, quite a small selection here, but I've got 3 kilos, 5 kilos, 9 kilos. I've got some adjustable dumbbells. I've got some more adjustable dumbbells coming, courtesy of TMJ Apparel. I've got some 20 kilos, 122.5, 122.7. Obviously my TMJ Apparel accessories here, Legend lifting belts, some lifting straps, all the usuals. TMJ Apparel resistance bands, these have been an absolute lifesaver and are allowing me to do a lot of different movements. My TMJ Apparel fat grips, I got a little preacher bench here that actually fits into my bench. I'll show you guys that in a second. Some TRX bands, some more accessories down there. A triceps rope, TMJ Apparel arm blaster, some back training grips. My Smith machine, I actually resurrected this. This hasn't been used in about 15 years. Believe it or not, when I first got into bodybuilding, I used to train at home, and this was my biggest investment for my home gym when I was a teenager. It's literally been in the shed at my parents' house for the last 15 years, and it's been resurrected, and it's actually in pretty good shape. So Smith machine, same deal with the bench. That's from my old home gym from when I was a teenager. Over here, I managed to get my hands on some mats to create a little platform, a barbell, borrowed some weight plates from one of my favorite fitness facilities here in the ADL. They were kind enough to allow me to use these weight plates while we're in lockdown. Got a torsinator over here so I can put the barbell in the torsinator, do some rows, do some presses. Got a close grip handle there, got a wide grip handle there as well, so that's gonna help me out with a lot of back training. These pieces over here are gonna come into my cardio, what I'm doing for cardio now. So I've got a medicine ball, I got a sandbag, and I got a 16 kilo kettlebell over there. And then over here, managed to access myself an easy bar, and then some Olympic plates, once again, from one of my favorite South Australian fitness facilities that was kind enough to allow me to rent some of this equipment off them while we're in this lockdown. So guys, when it comes to my weight-based training, what I've been able to put together here in my makeshift home gym has actually allowed me to train pretty damn well. I've had to get a little bit creative because I'm missing some major pieces. Obviously, I don't have any machines in here. I don't have any cables in here. I can do a lot of cable-based movements with resistance bands, but it's not quite the same. So my training intensity has dropped back a little bit just due to the circumstance. So what I've done to make up for that is I've increased my training volume. So I'm doing more exercises, more working sets to kind of make up for the fact that perhaps I don't have a particular machine or I don't have enough weight to do a particular movement that I would usually do with that amount of weight. So I've offset the slight decrease in intensity with a slight increase in workout volume. So far as my workout split is concerned, fortunately, I haven't had to change that at all. So my workout split's exactly the same. Monday, I'm hitting shoulders. Tuesday, I'm hitting arms. Wednesday, Thursday, I alternate between my first chest workout and a rest day. Friday is my back day. Saturday is my second chest day, and Sunday is my leg day. So my workout split has stayed exactly the same. Now, when it comes to cardio, obviously this is where I've had to make the biggest change. At the peak of my contest prep, I was doing a lot of medium intensity steady state on the Stairmaster. I don't have a Stairmaster in my home gym, so I've had to make some changes there. So where I was at the peak of my contest prep, I was doing 4 lots of 40 minutes Stairmaster in the PM. I was doing 4 lots of 20 minutes Stairmaster post-workout, and I was doing 2 lots of 60 minutes low intensity steady state walks, usually by the beach, by the coast. So I've had to change that quite significantly. So I've increased my low intensity steady state from 2 lots of 60 minutes to 3 lots of 60 minutes. I've replaced all of my medium intensity steady state Stairmaster cardio with 3 high intensity interval training metcons, so metabolic conditioning, effectively CrossFit style workouts that last for 20 minutes of high intensity training, and I'm doing those 3 times a week. So it's not going to get me the exact caloric output that I would be getting from doing all of that medium intensity steady state cardio on the Stairmaster, but with the post-exercise excess post-exercise oxygen consumption after doing high intensity interval training and the amount of calories that you burn post high intensity interval training as opposed to post medium intensity steady state, it's gonna be pretty close. There's definitely gonna be a drop off in caloric output because of the change in my cardio, because of the current circumstances, but I'm trying to match it as close as I possibly can. So that's where I'm at with my cardio at this stage of my reverse diet. So when it comes to reversing out of a pre-contest diet or reversing out of any diet, any extended period of caloric deficit, there's a little bit of a balancing act to be had between your caloric input, your macros in, the food that you're consuming, and your caloric output, your training, your cardio, everything that you're doing from an exercise perspective. The number one mistake that a lot of people make when they attempt to reverse out of a diet is they increase their calories way too much, or they just don't pay any attention to their caloric input and eat whatever they want in whatever amounts they want, and they significantly reduce their caloric output. So they, drop their exercise intensity, they drop all of their cardio, and effectively create such a huge caloric surplus and drop that on a metabolism that has been suppressed for such a long period of time. So we say that the metabolic capacity just isn't there. What you're trying to do with a reverse diet when it comes to balancing the caloric input on one side, the caloric output on the other side, is just as you do when you diet down during a dieting phase, during a caloric deficit phase, is you create a slight caloric deficit, you allow your body to adapt, you create a further caloric deficit, you allow your body to adapt, further caloric deficit, allow your body to adapt. So it's this reactionary process that I've covered with you guys in this prep that you're trying to achieve when it comes to reducing your body fat, when it comes to getting stage ready, when it comes to being in caloric deficit and any sort of diet. you're effectively taking that process and flipping it around when it comes to reversing out. So you want to slowly create a caloric surplus, allow your metabolic capacity to come back up, allow your metabolism to recover, then slowly create a further caloric surplus, allow it to come back up, slowly create a further caloric surplus. It's the same reactionary process, it's just in the different direction. So if you go and you throw as many calories as you can and reduce your caloric output as far as you can right at the start, you're really not giving your body the ability to adjust. And then when it does adjust, where do you go from there? You're gonna put on a lot of body fat very quickly. You're not gonna allow your metabolism and your metabolic capacity to adjust upwards. And when it does adjust upwards, where do you go? There's nowhere to go. So you really wanna reproduce the dieting procedure when it comes to that reactionary process, and using those data points, using those indicators to see, okay, is my body adapting? Have I reached a plateau? Do I need to go further into caloric deficit from a dieting perspective? The same data points on the way out. Am I putting on too much body fat too quickly? Do I need to just turn these dials down a little bit? Or am I on track? Am I adapting? Is it time to turn them up a little bit? So we use the exact same process and the exact same mindset when it comes to reversing out of a diet as it is when we are in a diet. So when it comes to my diet, what I've done, the first step, and you guys will have seen, I just explained my cardio regime to you. I'm pretty much keeping my caloric output almost exactly the same as it was in the last few weeks of my contest prep. It's come down a little bit, probably from the amount of cardio that I'm doing, because my caloric output from cardio alone is probably not as high as it was, even though I've switched up the medium intensity steady state for the HIIT sessions, and you've got the post-exercise oxygen consumption, so on and so forth, that comes along with doing HIIT compared to doing MISS. But the fact of the matter is my caloric output has probably reduced just a little bit. The way that I like to reverse out is to do just that. Change the caloric output just a little bit, and then that gives me a little bit more room to play with my caloric input with my diet. So keeping in mind what I've done with my caloric output, training from home now, trying to keep my workouts as intense as they were, trying to do almost as much cardio as I was doing towards the end of the prep, allows me to increase my caloric input more than I otherwise would. So at this point, I've gone from 2,100 calories, which was the lowest caloric intake that I was at towards the end of my prep before I started or didn't start peak week. And I've taken that 2,100 and I've gone straight back up to 3,000 calories. So I've increased 900 calories of input. I've kept my protein the same at 265. My carbs have come back up to just under 300 grams of carbs. My fats have come back up to about 90 grams of fat. So it puts me at just over 3,000 calories of caloric intake. So I'm gonna run that caloric output with that caloric intake for a week, 2 weeks, take my data point measurements, see how my body's adapting, and then when it's time to change, I'll probably increase my calories a little bit more, so maybe go to 3,200, 3,300, do that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it takes for my body to adapt. Then I might drop my cardio back a little bit, do that for 2 or 3 weeks, use the data points, see how long it takes my body to adapt, so on and so forth. So I'm trying to add a little bit of calories, reduce a little bit of output. Add a little bit of calories, reduce a little bit of output, so on and so forth. So I'm able to reverse out slowly, steadily, keep body fat gain under control, allow my metabolism to recover, and put myself in the best possible position as quickly as possible to start making gains again. So when it comes to my supplementation regime, as I'm reversing out of my contest prep, guys, my supplements really don't change that much year round. Whether I'm prepping for a show, whether I'm in a grow season, whether I'm in a maintenance phase, my supplementation regime is very fundamental and doesn't really change much. That being said, there are a few supplements that I use exclusively during a contest prep, which I will take out and have already taken out of my supplementation regime to kind of peel it back to what I consider to be my fundamental base supplementation regime. So talking you guys through it, starting off at the beginning of the day, the first supplement that I've taken out of my regime is my Core Load, my glucose disposal agent, which I'd normally have with my pre-workout meal about 4:30 in the AM. To be honest, I just don't need it at this point. My carbohydrates are back up, my calories are back up. I'm trying to get my insulin sensitivity back to a pretty baseline type level. So the core load is out of my supplement stack. Moving into my pre-workout staples, these do not change year round. So I'm still taking 1 scoop of Core Hard, my first scoop of Core Hard Extreme. I take 1 teaspoon of Alka Pure. I take 2 scoops of my Laxo Pure, and I take 1 scoop of HMB Pure as my pre-workout staples. Then when it comes to my pre-workout performance stack, you guys would know I started this prep using non-stim pre-workouts exclusively. I then started introducing stim-based pre-workouts. I've still got my stim-based pre-workout stacks in there. So I'll stack a red, white, and boom with the stars and pipes. I'll stack a harness with a daily pump. I'll stack a 7th gear with a hydraulic. I'm mixing and matching different stacks. The one thing is I am very wary of trying to bring my stimulant tolerance back down again. So with the stimulant-based pre-workouts that I'm using, I'm at half a scoop. I'll start bringing that back down to, well, half a serve, depending on the product. I'll start bringing that down to maybe 1/3 of a serve, and then eventually get those stimulants back out. So I'm back down to just using non-stim pre-workouts as part of my pre-workout stack. Intra-workout, exactly the same. This didn't change during the prep. It's not gonna change during the off season, during the grow season. 1 scoop of Miracle Labs Supremos stacked with 1 scoop of Creation Supplements Cluster Pure. I may, depending on what I do with my caloric intake and my carbohydrate intake, I may actually take the Cluster Pure up at some point during this reverse. So I might go from 1 scoop to 1.5 scoops, maybe up to 2 scoops, depending on if I have space to include those carbohydrates as part of my caloric intake. We then move to post-workout. I've dropped another supplement out of my post-workout regime. That is Ambrosia Overtraining Solution. Once again, just not necessary at this point. My calories are higher, my carbohydrates are higher. Naturally, my body's gonna recover better. I'm gonna be less sore because my body has more nutrients, more protein, more carbs, more fats, just more macros generally to help the recovery process. So Ambrosia Overtraining Solution is out. My staples of my post-workout stay in. So 2 scoops of HCL Pure, my creatine supplement of choice, and my 2nd scoop of HMB Pure stays in that post-workout supplement stack. We then move to my morning sup. So you guys would remember this is the biggest part of my supplementation, and this is more targeted at general health and well-being. Just keeping my body healthy, keeping my immune system as high as it can be, especially now as we head into the Australian winter, it becomes even more important. So I've made very small changes to this. I still have my 2 scoops of OptiGreens 50 as my green supplement. I have my 1 scoop of Flex Powder as my joint support. I have my 2nd scoop of Core Hard Extreme for my cortisol and estrogen support. I have my 1 scoop of Ambrosia Nectar. I have my 2nd 2 scoop serve of Laxo Pure. Those are all my powders. I put those don't change at all. I put those all together in a shaker. It tastes absolutely horrible, but I get them all done at the same time. Then when it comes to my morning capsules, still got my Core Multi in there, which is my multivitamin. I still got my First Form Full Mega, which is my fish oil. I still have my vitamin C in there, my ubiquinol in there, my vitamin D in there, which I've actually taken the dose up because I'm getting less sunshine now as we head into the Australian winter. So I'll go 4, 5, and then eventually 6 capsules of my vitamin D. The one supplement that I have taken out from my morning capsule stack is my Ambrosia Golden. So that's coming out. That's just another joint support. It's a turmeric-based supplement. Once again, my calories are back up. My fats in particular are back up. So naturally, I'm gonna get more joint support just from my higher intake of fat. So I've still got the Flex Powder in there for joint support. Ambrosia Golden at this stage, just not necessary. So that has come out. During the day, I'm still having my Core ABC with all of my meals. Take 1 scoop of Core ABC with each and every meal that I consume. And then I'm treating myself during the day to a little bit of Boom Boom, a little bit of America Energy, or an Arosto Cold Drip as a little afternoon pick me up on days that I need it. As I mentioned, I'm trying to bring my stimulant, my caffeine tolerance back down. So if I don't need America Energy or I don't need a cold drip during the day, I won't have it. But to be honest with you guys, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I'm still treating myself to America Energy or an Arosto Cold Drip every now and again. Pre-cardio, so as you guys know, I do my cardio in the PM. I'm still having my core shred, which is my non-stim fat burner. Obviously, I'm no longer in caloric deficit, so I'm not expecting to burn any fat. I like core shred as a pre-cardio supplement. It's just something that I like doing. So I've kept my core shred in there, even though I know that the chance of fat loss now is non-existent because I'm back in caloric surplus. My fat burner, my core burn X, I've taken back out. There's no need for it. It's just more caffeine. I'm not going to be burning fat at this point in time. So the core shred stays in because it just gets me in the mood to do cardio. The core burn X is out. And then before I sleep, I have my third and final scoop of Core Hard Extreme, and I've kept my Force Element Performance Night Ops in there. That is an amazing supplement that's just been helping me get good, solid, efficient, quality sleep. I'm sleeping much better now anyway because I'm back in caloric surplus. I'm not stupidly hungry all the time, which is another benefit, but I've kept the Night Ops in there because I'm just absolutely loving that supplement and sleeping very well with it. And that's where I'm at this stage of my reverse diet with my supplementation regime. And guys, that's a wrap for this 10th and final episode of Pro Prep, and that is an entire wrap for this entire series of Pro Prep. I thank you guys so much for coming along for the ride. It didn't end the way that we had intended on it ending, with me making my pro debut. That's the bad news. The good news is there is going to be another pre-contest series when I decide to take another crack at making my pro debut, and hopefully we don't have a worldwide virus that comes and shuts that one down as well. I just want to thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you guys for getting into this series, supporting this series, making this the most popular pre-contest series we've ever recorded. I really, truly do appreciate it. As always, if you have any questions about anything that I've covered in this episode, it's been a lot of information on reverse dieting, how to come out of a diet, how to set up a reverse diet plan. Any questions that you guys have about anything I've covered in this episode at all, or anything I've covered in this entire Pro Prep series, feel free to drop them down below as a comment to this video on YouTube, and I personally will get back to each and every comment that you guys have, each and every question that you guys have, and I will help you out as best I can. Guys, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Luke, who's been the man behind the camera with this entire series of Pro Prep, I just want to say thank you guys once again. As always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel, stay up to date with all the other video series we've got going on this YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn your post notifications on, both on your mobile, your cell phone, and your desktop PC. Until next time, I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Stay massive. Thank you for tuning into this video. We hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to check out our latest upload and our recommended video, and be sure to subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads.